Have you ever wanted to create your own maps for your fantasy world? Well, today's video, I'm going to show you a tool in which you can do that on. This is not sponsored. This is just personally the tool that I went for. And those of you who have seen some of my previous maps and things will appreciate that. In fact, I'll show you one that I've made before for my world. Here is the whole map of Talanis, which is my created world. I'll just show that on the screen now. So this is, wait, this way. This is Talanis, my created world with 4 continents, including some island chains, oceans, things like that. And this app allows you to zoom all the way in from this far out so that you don't actually have to have individual maps per continent or even per country, because you can zoom in that far. So today's video, I'm going to show you how to create, and I think we're just going to create a little island together, a basic island with a town and things like that on it. So the app that I use is called Wonderdraft, created by Megasploot. It's a one-time purchase, which is why I went for it. I think if you're in America, it's $30. In the UK, of course, less than that in pounds because of exchange rate. But it's a one-time purchase, so there is no subscription required. You don't have to keep paying for it every month. Once you've got it, and you can make maps till your heart's content. Now, it does come with plenty of assets. We'll get into that in a second. We'll open up a new one. New. Okay, so let's just do 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels for now. Theme can all be changed once you're already in there. And assets, just selected everything, basically. So once we do that, it loads in our little map. Now, when you load in, it will just be all ocean. There you go. There's our big square map. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself... Whee, I'm tiny now. I'm going to make myself small in this corner. So here is Wonderdraft. Over on this side, you've got the tools to create land, water, paths, symbols, regions, labels, and then overlay, which is some of the other types of labels and stuff, like saying the name of the country and stuff. So you've got a landmass brush here. So if I do this, it starts to create land. Of course, you can over here make that larger. So we said we're going to create a bit of an island. Okay, so we'll get a general shape, a bit of an S-curve shape here of an island. Yeah, let's make it shaped a bit like a bean. Now, obviously, when you're creating a fantasy world and a fantasy map, you don't want it to be exactly even, to be honest, do you, around the coastline and stuff. So I think what I usually do is I use this tool here. Now, this is the lower landmass tool. But if we make it a bit bigger and we kind of go all the way along the coastline, we could maybe leave a little point of island there. And what we can do is we can basically give it a more natural edge. There we go. We can even give it some little interesting things where things stick out like that. So we'll go around the whole island. We'll just do it roughly for now, because obviously we are just trying to show you. But of course, this applies, like, realistically, if we were a bit more zoomed out, this could be an entire continent. But this is just going to be a little island that we're going to do. And in fact, we're going to put an interesting little thing in here that almost splits the island in two, but doesn't quite, and gives it a little bit of an interesting feature. So you've got some island there. Now, the next thing that I usually do is I actually color things in a little bit. So when we're looking at this, we want to go onto ground color, and then we can pick some colors. So usually I kind of give it a bit of a base coat. That's a bit dark. Give it a bit of a base coat with a green color. If we want this to be some sort of, let's say we want it to be a kind of tropical island, and we'll leave beaches around the edge, which of course we can, if we want, kind of put back in. There we go. But of course that looks a bit flat for a map. So what we'll do is we'll go onto this tool here, where there's a kind of diffused version, and we'll spray that around a little bit, maybe some darker greens as well. And you can see you start to get a more natural grass texture there. So we've got the basics of the shape of our island and the color of our island now. So let's have a look at some of the symbols that we can get. Of course, actually, no, do you know what? Before we do that, let's create some rivers. Now the river tool here, you can choose the width, the roughness, the meander distance, i.e. how far it goes to one side. So you do your first click. Let's say we're going to put some mountains here. You do your first click there as your source. You can scroll here to make it as thick or as narrow as possible. Not as possible as you'd like. And then if you right click, that's going to be the end of your river. Let's say that there's going to be another one that comes out this side, and right click as well. And then of course, if you're changing down the width as well, you can make smaller rivers that are kind of branching off and going in different directions, like so. It gives you a little bit more of a realistic terrain in terms of rivers going all the way to the ocean and stuff. And even then we can make a larger one like that kind of branches off. Oh, actually, yeah, let's leave it like that. Actually, let's not leave it like that because that doesn't look very good. But what you can do as well is click, and then if you click again, it changes the direction and you can have it weave all the way to the sea like that. So therefore, we've got a bit of a river system. We've got a the general shape of the island. Now we can start to put stuff in. So that's when we go to symbols. Now this is the point where it comes with a preloaded amount of symbols. You can see over here on the right hand side, you've got like little bridges, even like dragons and creatures. So let's say that we were going to put some like warning, there's going to be dangerous creatures in the sea. There's mermaids surrounding the island. There's leviathans and things like that. You can pop them in as well to give yourself a bit of an idea. And also, if you want to indicate something that's maybe a harbour or something, let's say that we're going to put a harbour over on this side of the island. Let's say around here. There you go. You can put a boat in to signify that. But it comes with all your buildings, all your symbols, everything like that. And then you've got trees and things as well. But you can buy more. There's a website called cartographyassets.com, and you can basically browse through thousands and thousands of hand-drawn assets that people have made that you can download and import into your Wonderdraft. I won't go through the import process because it's a bit long-winded, but there are tutorials out there. I did it, so it can't be that difficult. So before we start putting settlements in, generally in this situation, I think we go on mountain brush, and there are a few different options here. We're going to go for one a little bit like this. They usually kind of, at first, they take on the color of the ground underneath them. So we're going to have a few mountains here, and maybe they actually come round over onto this side of the island, and there is a bit of a mountain range that kind of slices right through the island. Now, you're looking at that going, well, mountains aren't that color. So what we can do is we can go back to land, we can go back onto our tool, we can get a bit of a gray tool, and when you click the base of those mountains, that's when they start to change color, and they'll go the color that you want them. They look a bit more like mountains now. Obviously, I haven't got the time during a video to do all this, but you're saying, okay, well, how about some trees then? So again, you've got options of different trees. I like to use these little ones because they look quite good. And if you just click and hold, you can do that. And you can actually, if you put them on top of the mountains, they actually go through the mountains. So I think what we'll do is we'll create a little bit of a forest area over here. There we go. A little bit of a forest. But it's not just going to be completely sparse over the rest of the island. There'll be a few down here. There'll be a small patch of forest over here, and maybe a little bit down the coastline as well. And then there'll be some in the mountains as well. Gives you a little bit of texture to your land. Always add trees. I mean, I've talked about this before, not on the channel, but when you drive through the English countryside, we talk about rolling hills being the nice thing now that we see in the English countryside, but rolling hills weren't originally as much of a thing. It was forests. The UK was full of forests, but it was all knocked down chopped down to A, for building things, and B, to create farmland because more and more people. And it's a shame, really. But if you're talking about a fantasy landscape, there'd be a lot more trees than what there would in real life. Okay, so we've got a general idea then of this island. We've got some forested areas, we've got some rivers, we've got a big river that kind of comes in here and pools in there. We might be able to give that a cool name later. But let's put some houses down and some settlements. So first of all, actually, one I like to use quite a lot is this one here, which adds a little bit of a waterfall feature. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to add that waterfall there, and that means it's coming down from the mountains out to the sea. Quite a cool idea. So some of we've got all the kind of almost like Arabic historical looking buildings that you could use, but what we're going to use in this case, I have used that for one of my cities in Vulnahasi. Here we go. So I think what we'll do is we'll use some of the greenhouses. So when you're talking about the size of it, you want to kind of get a rough size of it based on everything else, see what looks right. I think over here by a river would be a settlement. When we're talking about settlements as well, and towns and things, think about geography, think about where things are placed. In real life, when you go through most cities in the UK specifically, obviously if you're watching this in America, it might not apply, but most cities in the UK are built on rivers because of the trade options that rivers bring, fresh water, etc., etc. So think about where you place things. Are they near a forest so that they can go hunting, so that they can gather berries and supplies in the forest? And then of course, because of this, I've got quite a few different types of settlement here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a few little kind of settlements throughout here. We have got some specific cool different ones though. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, actually over here by this settlement, there is, you can see the tower that goes on either side of the river. And then that gives you a little bit of a unique distinguishing factor. And actually down here where this port is, we're going to add a castle, because we'll say that this is going to be a town. And what you can do is as well, you can see that they kind of naturally mingle through the trees. I think what we can do is we can click that, and then we can go like that, and then like that. There you go. And then we can choose the layer. So if you clicking on that one, these were in front of it. So say I went like that, they went in front of it and it doesn't look quite right. So what I do instead there is select the castle, make that the highest one essentially. And therefore it sticks out the most. And then therefore you've got a little, a large town there. I think we're missing one or two little things, but maybe instead this time of adding the specific things, let's add some other different types of points of interest. I think there's one that's that looks a little bit like a cave / mine. Where is that? That is just going to be somewhere in here. Where is it? A cave. Ah, here we go. That one's there. We need to grab... Here we go. So if we just put that there, we've got a mine there, or an abandoned mine that could be something cool. Thinking about the fact that we've got an abandoned mine, what happened here? Let's put something like a... The thing is with this, I think this actually massively helps in terms of world building as well, building a map, because you can put things down and go, okay, yeah, now I'm going to write about that when you're creating places that are interesting. So you can say, oh, look, there's ruins there, there's a ruined tower, there's a ruined fort, and there's a mine there. What happened? Is it now haunted and overrun by ghouls or ghosts or something like that? Then you think, well, okay, what about something historical then? Let's put something over here near this river. There's like a historical standing stones. So you're just building up a flavor of what it's like. And already we have an island here that looks quite interesting, that looks like it's got a lot of things going on. We won't go into too much detail, but that's the general of adding symbols to the map. Labels then. let's add a label. So what are we calling the island? Let's call the island Selenor. So what you can do here is you can change the preset. So town, water, terrain. I usually use terrain for a big area, and then what we can do is we can change that to 100, and then we can add a bit of a curve to it, and then we can pop it up here. Let's place it here. That's a nice place for it. Then you can add that, and then of course if you want to add, let's say it's a town, it's going to be a smaller label. Let's say that that's Northtown. Obviously that's very generic and easy, but if you just do that and put it over there, you've got Northtown, you've got Tower Gate. These are just obviously just off the top of my head. You can change these as well to be a bit more visible. Let's just make it a bit bigger, to be honest. There we go. We'll go 40 on that, which allows it to be a bit bigger. Then this is going to be Harrowvale. That's going to be this small town here. Let's make that font a little bit bigger, and then maybe we could put it up above it a little bit. You can name your forests, you can name everything like that, but I won't go into too much detail. And then of course you can add overlays as well, like this. So what that does is if we enable that at the top, it gives us a little bit of a border around the outside. We don't want one that's gonna come too far in, because that's going to affect things. Let's go for that one. That gives you a little bit of an idea. This is the island of Selenor. We've got a town called Towergate, a town called Northtown, Harrowvale. You can of course name all these little individual sites as well. And then I think we do. There's a wind lance and stuff that you can add as well to this, but I won't go looking for it specifically at the moment. Oh, I think I found it. There you go. That makes it look a little bit more like a map as well. There you go. You can change the color of the ocean a little bit. It just, I think, helps you visualize what you want your world to look like. And then of course you can change your, I like imagination as a choice. There's paper, there's vintage, there's worn, and there's sample, which isn't one. So I like imagination because it's the one that's most like water, but you can change the color of it as well. Should auto save, and then you can export. You can do it as a 2x upscale multiplane height map, but that gives you a little small island to work off. And if you want to start a small campaign like this, the tool will, of course, like I said, it's a one-time purchase, so you can just continue to use it for as long as you want. And if you want to buy more assets to go for a more gothic look or anything like that, you can go on that cartographyassets.com and pick up as many as you like, usually like a couple of quid or a couple of dollars each, and it means that you can make your maps look really cool. I created my whole world like that. I also have created cities like that. I showed one of them, the Vulnahasi one. I think it was in my first ever video, actually. But I'll show you Stormsdock, which is our city to the north. I'm actually going to have to make myself small again, or move myself out of the way. There's Stormsdock, the city to the north. You've also got West Gable. That's another one that we've got, another one of the major cities. Lindhall as well. Here, and it means that you can create cities as well as your there's another one, Bonset. So you can create them so that when you have your full-on world map, you can zoom in, and that's Stormsdock that we just looked at, that's Bonset that we just looked at, West Gable, Vulnahasi and Lindhall, the major cities of this continent. And it means you can make your cities in them as well, which helps when people are trying to explore them. So that's the general idea behind this video. I just wanted to show people this tool really, and the fact that I use it for my games, because I think it could be a really helpful thing for people who are trying to create a world. $30 is yeah, it's quite a bit of money, but when you consider that if you'd be paying a subscription for months and months and months, it adds up soon to way over that. So for me, I enjoy this tool. Let me know what you think, or let me know what other tools you've used. I know that people use Incarnate, and I think there's other ones as well that I don't know off the top of my head, but this one's one that I found online that I've found to be very cool and very useful. So yeah, thanks for watching. This has been quite a long video. If you've stuck with me through the whole video, I want you to comment screw the Holy Empire, and I will know that you have been all the way through this video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.